We're in such a different era in wrestling now where even if you're signed to a company, you have the ability now, it seems, to be able to pop up in other places. And you had this great story of John Cena's only independent run when he was signed as a WWE superstar. What's your tie to that?
So I saw a video that you had with John, and he mentioned going to a school before his career took off. He was on the main roster, but he thought he was getting fired, and he was coming to his school. He was coming to Chaotic Wrestling at that point in time. So we'd see him there. And his dad actually was a manager, Johnny Fabulous, on our shows and did commentary for years. And then so I texted you about that.
Yeah.
But then, John made his name for himself. And then at some point, in the late 2000s, I want to say 2008, he wanted to do a benefit show. One of his brothers was a police officer and was in like an accident. He wanted to do like a fundraiser for their police department. So he talked to his dad, and they contacted Chaotic Wrestling and decided they're going to put on a show, a benefit show. And Vince gave the blessing for John to come in, and also Eugene, who was under contract at the time. So we had this big show right by West Newbury, at a high school very close to West Newbury, Massachusetts. And I think I wrestled Eugene on it, which actually the promoter gave me the option. He said, "Do you want to wrestle in the main event with John Cena as the referee, or do you want to wrestle Eugene?" And I'm like, I think I want to wrestle Eugene because I was just such a wrestler at the time. I wanted to have that experience wrestling.
And Nick Dinsmore is known as such a great technical wrestler.
Amazing. So I'm like, yeah, I want to wrestle. And then he, now I look back on it, I know it was weird. He was like, "Are you sure you want to wrestle Eugene?" And I'm like, yeah, I want to wrestle Eugene. Okay. So I wrestled Eugene, and then the main event was Big Rick Fuller from WCW fame against Brian Malonis, who's a really good friend of me, Tommaso, Kofi. He was in Ring of Honor for a bit, a big, almost 400-pound monster. They were in the main event with John Cena, who was currently the WWE champion, as the referee. And I remember... Well, I got to rewind a second. I'll get back to it because this is a really good story too. Johnny Fabulous was Rick Fuller's manager.
So John Cena Sr.
John Cena Sr., Johnny Fabulous. And earlier in the show, he cut a promo. And this is in front of 2,500 people at a high school. And he goes, "Now, usually, I'm a heel. That's a bad guy. But tonight, I'm a babyface. That's a good guy." And we're watching the monitor in the back. I'm sitting next to Eugene, and Cena's like standing up in front of us watching the monitor. And when that happens, he just turns back to me and Eugene and goes, "My pops is killing the business." And walks off. It's such a good memory. But main event, Rick Fuller, Brian Malonis for the Chaotic Wrestling Heavyweight Championship with John Cena as the referee, who is the current WWE champion. And Cena had Eugene put together the whole back end of the match to do whatever they were going to do, layer it with false finishes and belt shots and whatever. So again, I'm watching it with Eugene again. All of us are on the monitor, but I'm sitting, and I just wrestled Eugene, so we're sitting next to each other. And then they start to go into this finish that Eugene called. And then all of a sudden there's a big commotion. And we're like, what's going on? And then in the ring appears a figure in a suit. And we're like, what? Vince McMahon. So, and Eugene was totally confused. Dinsmore had no idea what was going on because that's not what he called. Cena had him call a whole back end of a match without any Vince McMahon. But Vince got in the ring and he grabs, I think he's face to face with Malonis. I love hearing Malonis tell the story. And it's a picture of Malonis. So Malonis is like, what the? And Vince is like, are you the babyface or the heel? He's like, pay attention to the heel. I'm the heel. And he grabs his hand and he raises his hand. That picture is a picture somewhere that with Malone is like, what is going on? And whatever happened, and Vince takes the worst attitude adjustment ever, just as bad as that last stunner he took.
So bad.
And he rolls into the ring, goes over the guardrail, out to a limo, and takes off. That's it.
And nobody knew he was there?
The only people who knew were John and the promoter, Jamie. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. And they weren't even sure if he was actually going to show up.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure this is the only independent show that Vince has ever been a part of.
Wow.
Pretty wild. He would do that for John.
That's amazing.
Pretty crazy.
Vince's only independent appearance.
Yeah.
And you're there.
I was there. And I made the decision not to be in the match. But yeah, I was there. It's crazy. It was crazy.
Man.
It was only 2,500 people, but the audience lost their minds.
I remember seeing stuff about it online. Yeah. I think I remember seeing a headline on some wrestling website. I'm like, there's no way that's real.
Yeah, if it was
Vince at an independent show,
if it was
that's clickbait.
10 years later, it would have been everywhere.
Yeah.
But we're still, this is 2007, 2008,
so
maybe.
just before,
it was just before
the real
like, the
boom
internet
of social
boom.
media. Yeah.
I don't think Twitter was a thing yet. So
yeah, Facebook was in its infancy.
Yeah. So another 5, maybe just 5 years, it would have been everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. But
there's going to be people hearing this story that are like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
There's no way that happened.
And there's barely any footage too, because cell phone footage wasn't really a thing yet either. So there's a little bit of cell phone footage. You can find of it on YouTube at some point.
On like flip phones.
Yes. Yeah. So it's really grainy and stuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think Chaotic had to sign some agreement that they wouldn't release the footage for the whole show.
Wow.
But WWE did have cameras there, so they have the footage and they own the footage. How crazy is that?
This should have been in the Mr. McMahon docuseries.
Yes, it should have.
Even if it was just for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
What a surreal moment that is.
Yeah. It's crazy.